It happened in an instant, a notification buzzing through Jordan's phone as they scrolled through a quiet evening on the couch. The weight of their grief had been constant, the aching absence of their mother haunting them every waking moment. They hadn't been able to talk to anyone about it. Sophie was supportive, yes, but even she didn't understand the depth of what Jordan had lost. Jordan just kept going, putting on a brave face, trying to hold the fragile pieces of their heart together. But when the notification came, the world felt like it might come apart. It was from Megan, a close friend, someone they thought they could trust. Megan had posted a meme mocking grief, something about getting over it, and how people who held on to sadness were just holding everyone else back. The worst part, their own name was tagged. "Jordan's been crying for months over their mom," the comment read. "Get over it already." The words hit like a slap, each syllable sinking deep into Jordan's chest. How could Megan do this? The betrayal felt too deep, too personal. Jordan wanted to scream, to rage, but they were frozen, staring at the screen. How dare she? The anger and hurt built up, and they couldn't just let it slide. It wasn't even the post itself. It was the fact that Megan had never bothered to check in, never asked if Jordan was okay, never even cared enough to know how much the loss still stung. Their fingers hovered over the screen, trembling with emotion. Should they confront her now? It didn't feel like an option. The idea of confronting Megan right away seemed too vulnerable, too raw. But there was no way Jordan could forget this. Not now. Not ever. Jordan's mind raced the entire night. The moment they'd seen the post, the words echoed in their head. They'd never thought Megan would be the one to do something like this. It wasn't just the post, it was everything that led up to it. Megan hadn't once reached out to see how Jordan was coping after the loss of their mother. It was as if Megan had no idea how deep the pain ran, how it consumed Jordan. And now, to see it all mocked, reduced to a joke on the internet for everyone to see, was the final blow. Jordan paced their apartment, hands clenched into fists, but the anger was bubbling up, threatening to boil over. What should I do? They wondered, their mind torn between confronting Megan or letting it slide. It felt like they couldn't stay silent though. This wasn't just an isolated incident. It was the culmination of months of emotional neglect. The more they thought about it, the more it became clear. Megan needs to see this for what it is. Jordan wasn't one to let conflict fester, but something about this felt different. They weren't angry just because of the post. They were angry because of the years of friendship, the moments when Jordan had been there for Megan, and now, this. The betrayal stung. The decision to confront Megan didn't come easily, but something inside Jordan snapped. They couldn't let it go. Jordan sat down at the edge of their bed, staring at the crumpled paper in their hands. The printed out post seemed to taunt them, a reminder of everything they had been trying to push through in silence. Megan, someone they'd considered a best friend, had turned their grief into a punchline for the world to laugh at. Jordan's heart ached with the weight of it all. Why had Megan posted this? The answer didn't matter anymore. It wasn't the first time Jordan had been let down by those they cared about. It was the way people treated them after the loss that hurt the most. The way they assumed that grief had an expiration date. People just don't get it. Jordan sighed deeply and ran their hands over their face. They'd spent so many months feeling like they were walking through life underwater, and Megan's post had made them feel even more isolated. It wasn't just the loss of their mother, it was the loss of connection, the feeling that no one truly understood. In the end, Jordan knew what they had to do. They couldn't let Megan's cruelty slide. They didn't want to be the person who stayed quiet anymore, especially not when it came to something so deeply personal. They would show up at Megan's party and confront her. It wasn't going to be easy, but maybe it would finally force Megan to see what she had done, what they had lost in the name of a cruel joke. Megan's party was in full swing by the time Jordan arrived. The laughter and music from the other side of the door made Jordan's stomach twist in knots. Their heart pounded, a mixture of fear and anger swirling inside them. They had never been good at confrontation, but tonight felt different. They weren't just going to stand by and let someone mock their pain anymore. The small printout was tucked in their bag, a heavy weight reminding them of the decision they had made. As Jordan walked through the door, they saw Megan across the room, laughing with a group of friends. Everything about this moment felt surreal. Would this really change anything? Jordan wondered. The answer seemed unclear, but they had to do it, had to show Megan how deeply her actions had hurt them. As they approached the center of the room, where Megan was standing, Jordan felt their pulse quicken. The noise around them blurred, leaving only the pounding of their heart in their ears. Megan turned, her smile faltering slightly when she saw Jordan standing there, expression unreadable. Megan's face dropped as Jordan walked up to her. The energy in the room seemed to shift, the tension palpable. Megan's smile faltered completely, and she shifted uncomfortably. Jordan stood there for a moment, holding the paper in their hand, the printout of Megan's post still intact. The silence that fell between them was deafening. Everyone at the party was watching now, their laughter dying down as they noticed the shift in the atmosphere. Jordan's breath came in shallow bursts, each heartbeat drumming louder in their ears. "This is it," they thought. "I saw your post," Jordan said, their voice tight, trembling with the effort to keep their emotions in check. Megan blinked, caught off guard. "What?" she asked, feigning ignorance. But Jordan could see the flicker of guilt in Megan's eyes. "You know exactly what I'm talking about," Jordan continued. "The post. The meme mocking grief." The words were out now, and there was no turning back. Megan swallowed hard, her eyes darting nervously to the crowd of onlookers. "Look, I didn't mean it like that," she said, her voice faltering. "It was just a joke." Jordan shook their head, the hurt too deep to hide anymore. "A joke? You think mocking my grief is funny?" Jordan's voice rose, and the room fell silent. Megan's face paled, but the damage was done. Megan's expression wavered between guilt and defensiveness. Jordan stood there, hands clenched around the printout, every word feeling like a punch in the gut. How could Megan not see what she'd done? Jordan's breath came in short bursts, the weight of grief and betrayal mixing inside them like a storm. Megan's apology seemed hollow, distant. "It was just a joke, Jordan. I didn't mean to hurt you," Megan repeated, but the more she said it, the less it sounded like the truth. Jordan shook their head, unable to hold the anger back. "Do you even know how it feels to lose someone?" Their voice cracked, raw and vulnerable. The room around them had become so quiet, each person watching with wide eyes as Jordan's words filled the space. She was never there for me, Jordan thought, remembering how Megan had pulled away after their mom's death. "You've never asked me how I'm doing, Megan. Never once. You never bothered to check on me." The words burned as they left their mouth, but they felt freeing, a release from the shackles of grief that had been building for so long. Megan's face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and defensiveness. The room felt suffocating now, everyone watching, yet no one stepping in. Jordan took a deep breath, their chest heavy with the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about the post, it was about everything Megan had failed to do. And for the first time in months, Jordan felt the courage to speak their truth. The room felt like it was closing in on Jordan. The laughter and music had died down, replaced by awkward silence. Megan's eyes flicked to the crowd, then back to Jordan, her gaze avoiding the intensity of the confrontation. "I didn't know you'd take it so seriously," Megan muttered, her voice quieter now, almost apologetic but still tinged with disbelief. Jordan shook their head in disbelief. "How could you think this was a joke? My mom is gone, Megan. I'm still mourning her. This isn't something you can just laugh off." The words felt sharp as they left Jordan's lips, but they didn't care anymore. The anger was bubbling over, a deep rage fueled by months of silence. Megan opened her mouth to speak, but Jordan raised their hand, silencing her. "No, Megan, you don't get to explain it away. Not anymore." The room was still, every eye trained on the two of them. For a moment, Jordan wanted to look away, to retreat. But they couldn't. They had to stay. "I need to do this," Jordan thought, clenching their fists. "You didn't just mock me, Megan," they continued, their voice shaking with emotion. "You mocked everything I've been through. The pain, the grief, the loss. Megan looked like she wanted to protest, but instead she stood there, silent. The quiet was deafening. Jordan could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on them, yet it felt like they were the only two people left in the world. Jordan could feel the heat in their face as their words echoed in the room. Every eye in the room was on them now, and yet they felt so small. The air was thick with tension, like it might snap at any second. Megan opened her mouth again, but Jordan could tell she was at a loss for words. The deflection wasn't working this time. "I get that you're upset," Megan said weakly, "but I didn't think it was that big of a deal." "Not that big of a deal?" The thought hit Jordan like a cold wave, the shock of it making their chest tighten. "Megan," they said slowly, their voice almost too quiet, "I've been dealing with the loss of my mom for months, and you think it's not a big deal?" The vulnerability in their voice was unmistakable, and for the first time, Jordan saw a flicker of realization in Megan's eyes. "I'm sorry," Megan muttered, her voice barely audible now. "I didn't know. I didn't realize." Jordan took a deep breath, trying to steady themselves. Maybe Megan just didn't get it after all. But the apology wasn't enough. Not yet. Jordan needed more. "I needed you to be there for me, Megan. I needed someone to understand." Megan shifted uncomfortably but didn't speak. The apology wasn't the answer to everything, but it was a start. For a moment, the room was silent, and Jordan almost wished they could disappear. The eyes of the partygoers felt like 1,000 weights on their shoulders, but the confrontation was too important to back down now. They couldn't let this slide. "Not again. I don't want your apology if it's just words, Megan. I need you to understand why this hurt. Why it felt like a betrayal." Jordan took a deep breath, trying to calm their racing heart. Megan looked down, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her shirt. Jordan noticed the small details, the nervous fidgeting, the way her eyes avoided their gaze. It was as if Megan didn't have the courage to face the full weight of what she'd done. "I thought I was being funny," Megan said softly, almost as if she were talking to herself. "But I see now. I see how much it hurt you." The words were small, but they carried weight. Jordan could feel their shoulders sag slightly as the intensity of the confrontation began to fade. Maybe Megan didn't get it yet, but this was progress. Jordan stood still, trying to steady their breath. "I'm not asking you to be perfect, Megan, but I need you to see me, really see me." The quiet hung in the air, heavier than any words could express. The room remained heavy with silence, but a strange shift had occurred. Jordan could still feel the sting of betrayal, but for the first time in months, they also felt a sense of release. Megan wasn't perfect, but she was finally seeing the depth of the hurt she had caused. The weight in Jordan's chest felt lighter, even if the resolution wasn't fully there yet. "I don't know if we can just go back to how things were," Jordan said quietly. Megan nodded slowly, her gaze meeting theirs for the first time in what felt like forever. "I understand," she whispered. "I'll do better. I'm sorry, Jordan." The apology didn't undo the hurt, but it was a start. It was something. For the first time in a long time, Jordan didn't feel like they were fighting this battle alone. Days passed after the confrontation at Megan's party. Things didn't go back to normal, but they didn't completely fall apart either. Jordan thought about the apology Megan had given, and while it was a step in the right direction, it didn't heal everything. There were nights when Jordan could still feel the sting of the post, like an old wound being reopened. Megan's words kept echoing in their mind. "I didn't realize how much it hurt you." Jordan wanted to believe her, but could they? Megan hadn't been there when Jordan needed someone the most. It felt like too much had been left unsaid, too many unshed tears between them. Jordan started pulling away again, not entirely, but just enough to keep their hearts safe. They couldn't trust easily anymore, not after everything that had happened. Sophie, who had been there for Jordan through all of this, tried to help. "You need to let her prove she can be there for you," Sophie had said. "But you don't have to keep putting yourself in a position where you're hurt." The advice was sound, but Jordan couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing between them. Megan was trying, but was it enough? Was the friendship worth the pain that came with it? It wasn't just the confrontation with Megan that had unsettled Jordan. It was everything that came after. Jordan had tried to go back to some semblance of normal, hanging out with Sophie and trying to distract themselves. But it wasn't the same. There were moments of quiet when Jordan was alone with their thoughts that they realized how much they had withdrawn. It wasn't just Megan they had pushed away. They had pushed everyone away. I don't want to feel this anymore, Jordan thought. But they were always feeling it, always reminded of the grief and the betrayal. There were days when Jordan felt like they were stuck in a loop, living out the same pain over and over again. Sophie noticed the change too. "You're not the same," Sophie had said, her voice filled with concern. "You've become so distant. I don't know how to help you if you don't let me in." But Jordan wasn't sure if they even wanted help anymore. They just wanted the pain to stop. They wanted to know that they were not alone. But every time they tried to let someone in, they ended up retreating. Is this how it's always going to be? They wondered. Could they ever trust again? Sophie's words stayed with Jordan for days, and while they didn't have all the answers, Jordan knew Sophie was right. They had been retreating, building walls around themselves, not just with Megan but with everyone who had tried to help. Jordan had been shutting out the people who cared about them the most. As the days wore on, Jordan found themselves in a conversation with Sophie that seemed like it might finally open the door to something real. "You've been pulling away, Jordan," Sophie said gently, her tone filled with concern. "I'm worried that you're not letting anyone in anymore. Not me, not anyone." Jordan felt their chest tighten. It was hard to admit, even to themselves, that they were afraid. Afraid of getting hurt again. Afraid of feeling the betrayal again. They hadn't realized how much they had been shutting themselves off from everyone. It was easier to be numb, easier to pretend everything was fine, even if it wasn't. But the longer Jordan kept everything inside, the harder it became to let anyone in. Sophie's voice was quiet but firm. "I get that you're hurting, but you don't have to do this alone." Jordan stayed silent, unsure of how to respond. The walls they had built around themselves felt too thick to tear down, yet Sophie's words kept coming back. Could they really let someone in again? Later that evening, Jordan found themselves alone once again. The conversation with Sophie lingered in their mind. Jordan wasn't sure they had the strength to face the truth of it all. Letting someone in, was it even possible? The grief still felt like a heavy weight on their chest. And every time they thought about it, the memories of their mother flooded back. Her smile, her laughter, the warmth she brought to every room. They could still remember the last time they'd spoken to her, the way her voice sounded when she told them she loved them. "I miss her so much." Jordan couldn't seem to stop the tears that had started to fall, despite trying to hold them back. They reached for their phone, as if trying to connect to something or someone. It was a reflex, really, a need to feel connected to the world. As their finger hovered over the contact list, they hesitated. Should they reach out to Megan? It had been days since they'd spoken. The silence between them had only made the distance grow. But Megan hadn't just hurt them with the post. She had also been absent during one of the most important times in their life. Jordan wasn't sure they could handle the rejection again, but a small part of them still wanted to reach out, to test the waters. Could they repair what had been broken, or was it truly beyond repair? Jordan sat there for what felt like hours, phone in hand, staring at the contact list. They could feel their heart racing, the pulse in their throat thumping harder with every second. Was this a mistake? They asked themselves. Reaching out to Megan felt like an attempt to bridge the unspoken gap between them, but it was terrifying. The fear of rejection loomed large, casting a shadow over any hope of reconciliation. After what felt like an eternity, Jordan made a decision. They began typing a message to Megan, their fingers trembling as they wrote. "Hey, can we talk?" It was simple, maybe too simple, but it felt right. They hit send before they could second-guess themselves. As the message left their screen, a small wave of relief washed over Jordan, quickly followed by the familiar feeling of anxiety. Would Megan respond? Would she even want to talk? The silence was deafening. Jordan could only wait and wonder what would come next. Jordan stared at their phone, waiting for Megan's response. Each minute felt like an eternity. What if she doesn't reply? Jordan's thoughts spiraled. What if Megan doesn't even care? The message felt like a leap of faith. As hope dwindled, Jordan's phone finally buzzed. Megan had replied. Megan's message was brief. I didn't think it was a big deal. I'm sorry if it hurt you. I'll try harder next time. Jordan's chest tightened. It wasn't the genuine apology they hoped for. This felt empty, like Megan didn't understand the depth of their pain. A bitter realization hit. Megan might never truly get it. Jordan typed a message asking to meet, hoping for more than just a half-hearted apology. Their fingers hesitated before hitting send. Was this a mistake? Megan had to show she cared, or Jordan couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. They hit send, heart pounding, waiting for Megan's response. The message came. I'm sorry, I can't meet today. Maybe another time. I'm really busy. Jordan stared at the screen, crushed. The hope they felt quickly evaporated. The anger surged. Megan had let them down again. It was clear now. Megan wasn't truly there for them, and the realization stung. The reality hit. Megan wasn't the friend Jordan thought she was. The apology wasn't enough. Megan had failed them. Jordan felt a wave of anger, but deeper still, the ache of rejection. Maybe it was time to move on. Megan had made her choice, and Jordan had to accept it. Jordan stood outside Megan's house, the night air cold against their skin. This was it. The final confrontation. They had nothing left to lose. The message, the silence, and the rejection had all led here. They knocked on the door, heart racing. Megan answered, her face filled with uncertainty. We need to talk, Jordan said firmly, voice steady but laced with emotion. Megan's eyes filled with confusion, and then guilt. I didn't think it was that serious, Jordan. I didn't know, she whispered. But Jordan couldn't let it go. You never tried to understand. You think a simple sorry can fix everything. They took a deep breath, their voice rising. This hurts, Megan. This was never just about the meme. Megan's face faltered. I wasn't there when you needed me. I realize that now, she said quietly. The words weren't enough, but they were a start. Jordan stood in silence, processing the weight of it all. I can't just forget, Megan, Jordan replied, voice cracking. But maybe we can try to fix this. Megan nodded slowly, hopeful yet uncertain. The silence stretched between them before Jordan spoke again, softer this time. I don't know if we can go back to how things were, but maybe we can start over. Megan nodded, her eyes still filled with apology. Jordan turned, looking back at her. We'll see, they said, a hint of hope in their voice. As Jordan walked away, the cold night air felt less oppressive. The confrontation hadn't resolved everything, but it had broken the silence. Jordan didn't have all the answers, but they finally felt like they had the courage to move forward, whether with or without Megan. Days passed and Jordan found themselves reflecting on the confrontation. The anger had softened, replaced by a quiet clarity. It wasn't perfect, but the weight of unresolved tension was gone. Jordan had finally spoken their truth. Maybe that was all they needed. The silence was broken, and though the path ahead was unclear, they felt a sense of peace for the first time in months. Jordan didn't reach out to Megan right away. Instead, they spent time with Sophie, working through their feelings. You don't have to have all the answers, Jordan, Sophie reminded them. You've taken a big step. Healing isn't linear. Jordan nodded, grateful for Sophie's unwavering support. It felt like they were finally starting to heal. A week later, Megan sent a text, asking if Jordan was ready to meet. Jordan hesitated for a moment, but then they realized something. They didn't need to rush into forgiveness. This was their journey, and they would decide when they were ready, without anyone else's timeline. The choice was theirs. Jordan decided to reply, maybe soon, let's see where this goes. It wasn't a definite answer, but it felt honest. They didn't have to rush back into things. For the first time, Jordan felt like they were in control of their own healing process. As Jordan stood at the window, looking out at the world, they felt a quiet strength. The grief was still there, but it no longer consumed them. They had confronted the pain, spoken their truth, and taken the first steps toward healing. It was a journey, one that would take time, but Jordan was no longer afraid of what came next. Months had passed since the confrontation with Megan. Jordan's heart no longer ached with the same intensity, but they hadn't seen Megan in person yet. The space between them had become comfortable, a sign of moving forward. Jordan had grown stronger through the pain. Healing wasn't a destination, but a continuous journey, and Jordan was learning to embrace it, step by step. It's okay to not have all the answers, they thought. It's okay to grow at your own pace. Jordan finally met Megan for coffee, weeks after their last message. The conversation was slow, filled with pauses, but there was no tension. Megan apologized again, this time more sincerely, and Jordan listened. There were no grand revelations, but something had shifted. Maybe there was room for their friendship again, but it would take time, and that was okay. As Jordan left the cafe, they felt lighter, but not because everything was fixed. The weight of the past had lessened, and for the first time, Jordan felt at peace with the process of healing. They didn't need to hold on to everything. Letting go of what wasn't working had made room for new possibilities. Back at home, Jordan stood by the window, watching the world go by. They didn't have all the answers, and that was okay. What mattered was that they had learned to let go, to speak their truth, and to give themselves permission to heal. It's enough, Jordan thought with a quiet smile. I'm enough. As the day ended, Jordan thought about everything that had happened. The hurt, the healing, the moments of growth. It was all part of the journey, and they had made it this far. There would be more challenges ahead, but Jordan knew now that they had the strength to face whatever came next.